Hey guys, Coach of Tactical Hyve, and I got a short history, or my history, with the weapon mounted lights. We started off back in the mid 80s, my first platoon. We basically had a version of a mag light that would basically be clamped onto your MP5, and that was how you did it. And that was high tech back then. Like, wow, this is pretty cool. And they were pretty bright light, you know. Mag light was decent at the time, but damn. Okay, so big and heavy. The next evolution from there on the MP5 was the light that was actually mounted on the foregrip. And those were actuated with your thumb, or there was pigtails that would come off. You could put a switch, a pressure switch, in different places depending on how you wanted to run your gun. I never was a big fan of those. Just, press the button and go. And that was pretty much it for long guns for a long time, because the technology hadn't caught up. Light technology, everything was kind of big, and it was too big to put on a pistol. And then, let's see, mid 90s was the first time I saw this one. This isn't mounted on there, but it went on here like this, and this was high tech at the time, and as small as possible, and everybody's like, whoa, that's really cool. This is the Surefire. I'm not sure which model, but it had a little pigtail. You could actuate it either with the pressure switch here, or it had the switch on this. If that didn't work, there's no momentary. You flick it on, flick it off. So Surefire innovated, and they came up with this next iteration, which was still big, but it was a whole lot easier to mount. All you needed to have was this section of rail here, because initially the first 226s didn't have a rail. So we just clamped that bad boy on there, and that slid in here. And then these little flanges on the outside matched up with some grooves on the inside of your holster, and that's what your pistol flopping around. And so whether you had the light on or not, because we don't always have it on, you could still use the same holster with this one. And even though you didn't have that light there, this wouldn't just bounce around and fall out of your holster. This is the one I rolled with for most of my time downrange. We're talking, I think it might have had 60 lumens, but at the time, this was that was the best thing going. A little bit later, early 2000s, Insight, they came out with their M6 series, and this one had, it was slightly brighter. I'm not sure of the lumens, but they were bright, and they had the laser. M6, this one was a bit smaller, but not waterproof. M6X was more robust and bigger, and you could actually dive this thing, I think. I never did, but apparently it was advertised you could. Surefire's next iteration, this one's an X200, so it's an early model. The 300, pretty much what they got going now. This one's old. This one's, Jesus, maybe mid 2000s. It's set up for a SIG without a rail on it, because you've got this piece here that you would attach to the rail. So this one goes on the rail, and this attaches to your trigger guard and basically gives you a rail on your gun. Like this one here, the early one had this pigtail that you had to figure out something to do with all this wire, and taping it to the trigger guard or something like that was the preferred method. And get it taped down here to this, so then when you squeeze your gun, the light would go momentarily. This next one, not sure the model number, because hell, it was just issued to me. But again, it had the pressure switches already built in right here. So as soon as you grab that gun, you squeeze right here, and that light comes on. Outside of Surefire, I mean, these lights that I use for concealed carry, they're a bit smaller than this bad boy. So they fit in that little blank space between the dust cover and the front of the trigger guard. They're not very obtrusive. They don't stick out much. Of course, if you got, the shorter you go, it might stick out a little bit, but not too bad. Again, the lumens have come up. They're as waterproof as I need them to be, because I'm not locking out submarines anymore. And hell, if you want to go with Olight, they're a little bit more economical. They're not as tough, but they are tiny. And they have the little onboard rechargeable battery. So you just plug that bad boy in, and when you pull it off, if you're ever going to use it for a nightstand gun, those batteries are fresh. It can be plugged in, pull it off, you got a fresh battery right there. Nothing worse than going to light something up and your battery doesn't work because it's gone dead. Now for the rifles, again, we started out just clamping these bad boys to the barrel. Now, if you're only going to use this gun for CQB, it'll work, but it's not a good idea to go clamping things to your barrel. It disturbs the harmonics, and if anything changes on here, your point of impact is going to shift. It's just not good. But that's what we had at the time. You know, those companies that were making these clamps specifically to do this, because that's what we needed to do at the time. You know, pigtail out to your weapon light switch here. Yeah, and this was early on. You know, Black Hawk Down. So that was around in the 90s, and as we progressed, they started making these bad boys a bit more robust, a little heavier, which it's good and it's bad. You know, you can beat the hell out of this thing, but it's a little overbuilt. And the technology with the heads was getting a little bit better. I think we can get, you know, over 100 lumens with this bad boy, and then you could swap out the heads as the technology improves. You could just pull off, you know, this head and put a different one on that had you know, more capability. But we wanted something smaller and lighter. Late 90s, early 2000s, they started making them a little bit smaller. Not quite the Scout Light yet, but we're getting there. The barrel's smaller. They have different tail caps. This one, you've got a pressure switch or a place where you can attach a pigtail and run your switch wherever you want it to go. Now, light ADs were an issue. So what you wanted to do was keep this thing covered, and when you start wearing nods, you're either going to emit with your laser, or you can use the flashlight too. So with an IR cover, nobody can see it except guys with nods on. If you want to go white light, just flick that bad boy down, and now everybody can see. First started doing CQB outside. You know, when you were getting to your target, everybody was dark, and you used lasers. Once you got into the building, you're just looking under your nods and going white light. For a long time, we did it that way. Last few years, everybody's staying on nods, and we're not emitting as much because more and more people have night vision and they can see what the hell you're doing. Now, the latest one that we have is pretty close to what's out there now. I think this one, I'm not sure it's the first, second, third, whatever iteration of the Scout Light, but you can see the two CR123s are still, they're going to take up that same amount of space. So the head is where all the technology is changing now. Your power's back here, and that's pretty much going to stay standard. You can get more power out of lithiums, and the battery technology is coming up. Better technology, better brightness. You know, we're talking higher candela and lumens. Just there's a lot of good stuff coming out in a nice small package. And unscrew this tail cap. There's other ones you can put on there. I like this one a lot because it's guarded. This one here, real easy to get to with your thumb, but you tend not to bump it or bang it or, you know, cause light ADs that way. Light, that's accidental discharge of light. And if you're running around in the dark and all of a sudden a big white light goes, the bad guys don't have to guess. They just start shooting over your direction and the jig's up. So it's kind of a big deal. These days things keep getting better, smaller, more powerful, and more rugged and waterproof. And that's where we want to go with all of this. If you get lights on your guns, mount them, train with them, make sure you know how to use them. I put lights on my carry guns, on my house guns. I want to be able to see. You got to have that positive ID of your threat. I suggest putting a light on any gun that you might use to deal with a threat. Just my 2 cents there. Get it, train with it. Yeah, it's not going to be worth crap if you don't train with it. So get out to the range, burn some ammo down, get the reps in. All right, guys, if you like this content, like, subscribe. Hell, hit me up on PFI Coach if you want. You know, I'm nowhere near as cool on that channel, but I don't know, give it a try. Coach out.